Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Saving Green Wire, a different type of episode focusing on environmental news. News you may find relevant, interesting, terrifying, or maybe all three. Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Josh. Thank you so much for checking out Saving Green. And today's episode is a news update on some relevant and interesting environmentally related and tangentially related news that I think you should know about. So first of all, we're going to talk about a slow-moving environmental disaster. And no, I'm not talking about the current domestic energy policy. I'm actually talking about a oil vessel off the coast of Venezuela, known as the Nabarima, a Venezuelan owned vessel with potentially some joint ownership or responsibility from an Italian oil conglomerate that has been stranded in the Gulf of Paria for about 20 months now. And this vessel has been slowly teetering and wobbling and maybe abandoned for all this time. Meanwhile, the 1.3 million barrels of oil, also known as about the same amount of oil as the Exxon Valdez, has been unaccounted for. And local environmentalist groups, as well as fishery lobbying organizations, as the government of Trinidad and Tobago, have been trying to get Venezuela to take ownership and responsibility and basically just take care of this thing. So for the last few months, there's been some diplomatic back and forth. Finally, the vessel has supposedly been upright as government and NGO organizations are finding ways to siphon the oil off the tanker and hopefully save a potentially impending huge economic and environmental disaster that will impact a lot of fishery and international trade should this thing really just let its contents loose. So keep an eye on this space and we'll see what happens with the Nabarima. Now, in electric vehicle news and Tesla news specifically, they have been busy even since Battery Day. They have made some pretty significant improvements to the 2021 Model 3 and Model Y, including improved range and efficiency of both vehicles, as well as cosmetic and some under-the-hood tweaks to the Model 3, including an automatic trunk and increased wheels, also called the Uber turbine wheels, which supposedly have improved aerodynamic efficiencies and maybe some better cosmetic looks. What else? They are keeping the pricing the same, which is nice that they're giving you more for the same amount of money. They're also making some improvements to the steering wheel, to the center console like flippy thing, as well as the center console layout itself and the display orientation with some firmware and hardware updates as well under the hood. So that's all well and good. However, they are also discontinuing their 4-year used car warranty, dropping it down to 1 year or 10,000 miles on used vehicles. So that's not so great. And they're also, just in the last week, got rid of their 7-day no questions asked return policy. So Tesla's up to something, and it's not really good in terms of consumer satisfaction. On the flip side, Tesla's solar initiative has really been burgeoning quite significantly in the last quarter since they dropped their pricing of their units down to maybe under $1.50 or certainly under $2 per watt. And I have a link down below to the announcement back in the summer if you want more information on that. They're also claiming for a 2-day solar roof install. Not the panels like I discussed in the previous offer, but they've reduced the price of the roof as well. And yes, this is not really universally available, and there is a big asterisk in this 2-day time frame. That include taking all the tiles and shingles off the roof and applying all these support systems in advance of that 2-day. But nonetheless, our solar panels were installed in about 2 days, so this makes them at least competitive. And it's good that Tesla is making improvements because other companies are catching up, namely GM. GM just announced yesterday a monster of an electric vehicle, the new Hummer. They've reclaimed the notoriously environmentally damaging, gas-guzzling beast of a vehicle and made a new all-electric EV SUV that is pretty compelling. Now granted, this is not a green vehicle. It's massive and it takes a lot of energy, whether it's battery or otherwise, to move a lot of mass. But it's got a lot of cool bells and whistles, a very sophisticated camera system, a really interesting each wheel has its own kind of bracket system, so it can drive like on a diagonal. I don't really know how that's going to work. It's got this like removable scaffolding roof. It's got a really amazing sound system. It's got ridiculous amount of horsepower. I think like over 1,000 horsepower. and a 0 to 60 time of 3 seconds. No joke. Now, this car does not come cheap. It's over $100,000, at least for the first edition. So this is not something that Saving Green can probably endorse. But if you're interested in EV and have a lot of cash and maybe have a lot of solar panels and the ability to power such a vehicle in a green way, then yeah, it could be a compelling option. But nonetheless, it just shows that GM is really going all in on their environmental chassis, and I suspect this is going to be a pretty compelling offer, especially compare it to Ford's recent offering and VW's recent offering as well in the SUV space. The third thing to discuss today hits a little closer to home, and that's the fact that an article in the Sun Sentinel, which is my local newspaper, just published the fact that local insurance companies, home insurance companies in South Florida, have already paid out about $460 million just in the first 6 months of 2020 due to water and flood and wind-related damage just during this hurricane season. Now, granted, Florida, thankfully, did not get pummeled the way some other parts of the country has. Our thoughts and prayers are with you, Louisiana. But nonetheless, our time is certainly coming, as all of us have to be aware of living where we do and understanding that climate change is in fact a real thing. And who's taking note of it? Actuaries and insurance companies. And they are raising homeowner premiums by upwards of 20 to 30% on new home purchases, particularly in flood zones and coastal areas that are particularly low-lying and at risk for rising water levels. And this is just the latest evidence that climate change is not only real, but financial effects are really starting to take hold even now. And I think a lot of home buyers should be aware of where you happen to be purchasing homes, whether it's here in South Florida or in California, which has been ravaged by fires. There are big climatic changes that are occurring, and it's important that you know what you're getting into financially. And the last story is a little political. It's important to be aware of what's going on, not only locally, but nationally as well. And in this crazy election season, Judge Amy Coney Barrett has just finished and wrapped up her Senate confirmation hearings. And with the Republican majority, she's all but assured to achieve her seat on the Supreme Court. But one particular line of questioning by Vice Presidential candidate Senator Kamala Harris was particularly noteworthy from an environmental perspective, and I'll just play a clip for you right now.
The Massachusetts v. EPA case, scientific consensus has grown even more and stronger that climate change is real, and it is caused by man-made greenhouse gas pollution, and it poses significant threats to human life. If a case that comes before you would require you to consider scientific evidence, my question is, will you defer to scientists and those with expertise in the relevant issues before rendering a judgment?
If a case comes before me involving environmental regulation, I will certainly apply all applicable law, deferring when the law requires me to. And as I'm sure you know, Senator Harris, the Administrative Procedure Act does require courts to defer to agency fact-finding and to agency regulations when they're supported by substantial evidence. So yes, I would apply that law and defer when the law requires me to defer.
And do you accept that COVID-19 is infectious?
I think, yes, I do accept that COVID-19 is infectious. That's something of which I feel like, we could say you take judicial notice of. It's an obvious fact, yes.
Do you accept that smoking causes cancer?
I'm not sure exactly where you're going with this, but the notice that smoking causes.
The question is what it is. You can answer it if you believe. Yes or no.
Senator Harris, yes, every package of cigarettes warns that smoking causes cancer.
And do you believe that climate change is happening and is threatening the air we breathe and the water we drink?
Senator, again, I was wondering where you were going with that. You have asked me a series of questions that are completely uncontroversial, like whether COVID-19 is infectious, whether smoking causes cancer, and then trying to analogize that to eliciting an opinion on me that is a very contentious matter, opinion from me that is on a very contentious matter of public debate. And I will not do that. I will not express a view on a matter of public policy, especially one that is politically controversial, because that's inconsistent with the judicial role, as I have explained.
Thank you, Judge Barrett. And you've made your point clear that you believe it's a debatable point.
Yeah, so that's how that went. She acknowledged that smoking causes cancer, that coronavirus is indeed infectious, but that climate change is not settled science. And while it may just be natural, dismissive, and kind of dodgy answering on behalf of the judicial candidate due to the context of her position, but nonetheless, it is a bit disturbing that science is in and of itself a debatable topic. Now, you could argue forever, and I'm sure a lot of the viewers, maybe of this channel or other channels, will write down in the comments that, yes, climate change is not settled science the way that the other things are, and therefore it is certainly ripe and open for political compromise and debate. But I respectfully disagree. How we handle it is certainly up for debate, but the underlying science that greenhouse gases are contributing to increased energy in our atmosphere is pretty much incontrovertible. And the fact that we're still at a place in our society where the highest legal minds and governmental figures in our country can't agree on the common facts that underlie any informed decision, politically motivated or otherwise, is a sad commentary on where we stand today. So that's it. That's your Saving Green Wire news update for now. So for the dozen of you watching this video, thank you for your time. I do hope that you found it informative and helpful, and I encourage everyone, regardless of party, to register and vote this November. Thank you, and I will see you in the next video.